Okay, so let's start with permanent job opportunities. What are you seeing?
We're seeing a lot of movement right now, honestly. People are a little conflicted with their experiences in the job market, but there is absolutely a ton of transition and those who are actively employed actually leaving for different roles, creating this massive shift right now in the market.
Why are they looking for different roles?
The very common trend and kind of theme, I guess, that we're seeing right now is that people are looking for better wages. Cost of living is really putting a lot of pressure on people. And so they're naturally, whether they're in a place of enjoying their role or not, they're feeling the crunch and the pressure of cost of living and making ends meet and are really just looking for a higher wage.
So then are people leaving to go to different industries, like to try something completely new?
We're seeing some of that, absolutely. I think people are a lot more open right now in terms of what opportunities are out there and what they're willing to entertain. It might not be so intentional saying I'm going to get out of this industry and entertain something else. They're casting a very wide net right now.
Yeah. We talk about the cost of living. How else are you seeing that impact the job market?
It's interesting because typically summertime, when we're talking about summer jobs and students entering into the workplace and really kind of getting into some of those conversations, we typically see a lot more students in the market and being successful and finding opportunities. But there's a lot more, I guess, a lot of people on the market who are looking for a second job. And they're taking up a lot of these part time opportunities that typically students would step into, as employers are saying, why not take someone who's been in the market, who has all of this experience into this role that typically is an entry level position?
So what advice do you have? I mean, it sounds like that's going to create a competitive environment where you have these, like first-time workers or like people looking for summer work and then people looking for a second job, part-time job. How can people set themselves apart?
Yeah, I mean it's difficult because it depends on the organization. It depends on the application process. People always say differentiate yourself, get in person, apply in person, but nowadays that's not always an option. And so you have to find ways to differentiate yourself in a competitive market through an online process. And the biggest thing that I say to people entering into the job market is there's so many free resources online, which is great, but you have to be mindful about the resources that you use. For example, a big one, resume templates. If you're creating a resume based off of a template and you pick the first template that you see on Google, odds are, realistically, that about 50,000 other job seekers locally have used the same template. And so you can get lost in the masses just by putting the information of who you are and what your experience is into a template that hiring managers are seeing hundreds of, that exact same format, font, everything. So it's little things like that. Just find ways to be a little bit creative, differentiate yourself and how you present yourself in that first impression.
And what about specific sectors? Are there any job areas that are in high demand right now?
There's a lot happening in the finance and accounting space. Typically, we see it happen earlier on in the year where there's a lot of things that are taking place in accounting and finance. But we're seeing it manifest a lot more now in the middle of the year, which is quite interesting to see. But there is a tremendous demand for quality, candidates in entry level, intermediate to senior and executive accounting and finance positions.
Wow. And then just quickly, how does Edmonton differ from other places in the country when it comes to employment and people seeking jobs and job opportunities?
There's not a whole tremendous amount of difference. And some people might hate me for saying that because you always want to be a little bit different. But realistically speaking, Alberta's in kind of a very similar boat across all of the cities. Industry wise, there might be different industries that are kind of leading in terms of job opportunities and vacancies. But really, right now, Edmonton is very similar to Calgary and some of the rural surrounding cities that there is opportunity, but it is still a very competitive market. And you have to be mindful of that.
If anything, that's going to be reassuring for people who are looking for work or kind of, whether they're entering for the first time or changing jobs, all of those things that you talk about. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
No worries.